I don't know if you guys have seen or heard, but Caitlin Clark is in fact back. Caitlin Clark! And steps back with the three over Brianna Stewart.
Basketball world just witnessed greatness. Pure, unfiltered, unstoppable greatness that left the defending WNBA champions lying flat on their backs, wondering what the hell just hit them. Caitlin Clark didn't just return. What we just saw wasn't just a basketball game. It was a statement. It was a masterpiece. It was Caitlin Clark announcing to the entire world that she's not just back, she's back with a vengeance that will haunt the nightmares of every team in this league.
Caitlin Clark just handed the New York Liberty the ass whooping of a lifetime. And what's crazy about all of this is that the referees couldn't even save them.
The New York Liberty walked into Indianapolis thinking they owned the place. They strolled in with their perfect 9-0 record, their championship swagger, their air of invincibility that comes with being the defending champions. They thought they were walking into a wounded animal's den, ready to feast on an Indiana Fever team that had been struggling without their superstar. What they found instead was a hurricane named Caitlin Clark, and by the time the dust settled, their perfect season lay in ruins, their confidence shattered, their dominance exposed as nothing more than smoke and mirrors. 32 points, 7 3-pointers, 9 assists, 8 rebounds, coming off an injury that sidelined her for 5 games. These aren't just numbers on a stat sheet, they're bullets fired directly into the heart of anyone who dared to question this woman's greatness. This wasn't just a performance. This was a declaration of war against every doubter, every hater, every analyst who had the audacity to suggest that maybe, just maybe, Caitlin Clark wasn't ready for this moment.
Simply a masterclass at work. This basketball team looked great. Everybody and their mamas talking about this, man. Kelsey Mitchell showed up in a major way. She had 22 points, 1 assist, 2 rebounds. Caitlin Clark, 32-9-8, bro. 32-9-8. And that's all I'm going to say, 32-9-8.
Clark had a spectacular return to the Fever after missing 5 games with a left quad strain, and spectacular doesn't even begin to do justice to what unfolded on that court tonight. A red-hot first half and a career high-tying 7 3-pointers from Clark led the Indiana Fever over the New York Liberty, 102-88, but those numbers tell only part of the story. The real story is written in the stunned faces of Liberty players, in the silence of their usually vocal bench, in the way their perfect season crumbled like a house of cards in a tornado. Liberty thought they had figured out Caitlin Clark. They had beaten her before. Just 3 weeks ago, they escaped Indianapolis with a narrow 90-88 victory, a game that required controversial officiating and last-second heroics just to survive. They thought they had her number. They thought they knew her weaknesses. They thought wrong, dead wrong, catastrophically wrong. The Liberty raced out into an early 11-point lead, but Clark took control in the final 3 minutes of the first quarter, converting a 3-point play before hitting threes from deep on 3 consecutive possessions to tie the game. This sequence wasn't just a momentum shift, it was a soul extraction. You could see it in the eyes of Liberty players as they watched their comfortable lead evaporate in real time, as they realized they weren't dealing with the same player they had faced weeks earlier. This was Clark evolved, Clark angry, Clark with something to prove. The injury that kept her out for 5 games wasn't just a physical setback, it was fuel for the fire that burns within every true competitor. While her body healed, her mind sharpened. While her teammates struggled without her, her hunger grew. While doubters questioned her durability, her determination crystallized into something pure and destructive. What emerged from that rehabilitation wasn't just a healthy Caitlin Clark. It was an apex predator disguised as a basketball player. Clark had a huge start in the matchup, scoring 25 first-half points, and by halftime, the Liberty knew they were in serious trouble. This wasn't the methodical dismantling of a lesser opponent. This was a public execution broadcast to the entire basketball world. Every 3-pointer was a dagger. Every assist was a masterclass in court vision. Every defensive play was a reminder that greatness can't be contained, can't be game planned against, can't be stopped when it reaches this level of pure basketball. Transcendence. The 7 3-pointers that tied her career high weren't just shots, they were statements. Each one landed with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel, cutting away at the Liberty's confidence, their composure, their championship aspirations. Clark's 7 3-pointers tied her career high, but the real significance wasn't in the personal milestone. It was in the systematic destruction of what was supposed to be the league's most dominant team. Let's talk about the context that makes this performance even more devastating. The Liberty weren't just undefeated, they were unstoppable. They had rolled through the league's best teams like they were playing against high school JV squads. They had Breanna Stewart, one of the greatest players in WNBA history. They had Sabrina Ionescu, a generational talent in her own right. They had the depth, the experience, the championship pedigree that separates pretenders from champions. None of it mattered. None of it could withstand the hurricane that was Caitlin Clark's return. Clark was sensational in her return from a quadriceps strain, eclipsing 30 points and nearly recording a triple-double. Sensational. The word feels inadequate, like calling the Grand Canyon a hole in the ground or describing the ocean as wet. What Clark did tonight transcended sensational and entered the realm of the supernatural, the otherworldly, the kind of performance that makes you question the laws of physics and the limitations of human potential. The most devastating aspect of this performance wasn't just the statistical dominance, it was the ease with which it was achieved. Clark didn't look like a player returning from injury. She looked like a player who had been storing up months of frustration and unleashing it all in one magnificent, terrible display of basketball artistry. Clark went against 7 different primary defenders versus the Liberty. The 6'4" Stewart had the most success. Clark shot 1 of 5 for 3 points and had 3 turnovers against her. Against the other 6 defenders, Clark was 10 of 15 for 29 points. Even when the Liberty threw their best defender at her, even when they tried every scheme in their playbook, Clark found ways to destroy them. The supporting cast around Clark deserves credit for their contributions, but let's be honest about what really happened tonight. This was a one-woman show, a solo performance that will be remembered long after the final buzzer faded into history. Kelsey Mitchell added her 22 points. Aliyah Boston contributed her double-double, but they were merely supporting actors in Clark's masterpiece, background singers in her championship anthem. The 102-88 final score tells the story of systematic domination, but it doesn't capture the emotional devastation that Clark inflicted on her opponents. You could see it in their body language as the game progressed, the way their shoulders sagged with each Clark 3-pointer, the way their communication broke down as their game plan crumbled around them. This wasn't just a loss, it was a humiliation, a public stripping away of all pretense that the Liberty were somehow on a different level than everyone else. The referees, who had arguably helped the Liberty escape with victory in their previous meeting, found themselves powerless to influence this outcome. When a player reaches the level that Clark displayed tonight, when the shots are falling from impossible angles and the assists are threading through defensive schemes like they don't exist, there's nothing officials can do to alter the course of destiny. The game was decided by pure basketball skill, and Clark's skill was simply superior to anything the Liberty could muster in response. The broader implications of this performance extend far beyond a single regular season game. The Liberty's perfect season is gone, yes, but more importantly, their aura of invincibility has been shattered. Every team in the league watched this game and saw that the defending champions can be beaten, can be dominated, can be made to look ordinary when faced with extraordinary talent playing at its peak level. For Clark personally, this performance serves as the perfect response to every critic who questioned her durability, her ability to perform in big moments, her readiness to carry a franchise on her shoulders. Coming off an injury that could have been used as an excuse for a subpar performance, she instead delivered the kind of game that defines careers and creates legends. This is the performance that will be shown in highlight reels for decades, the game that young players will study to understand what peak basketball performance looks like. After beating the Liberty, Clark took to social media to celebrate her team's underdog triumph. Clark posted a series of photos from the game on her Instagram account and added the caption, "Good to be back." The Fever as a team gained something invaluable: confidence, not just in their star player, but in themselves, as a unit capable of competing with anyone in the league. They saw what happens when their system is operating at full capacity, when Clark is healthy and locked in, when the supporting cast embraces their roles and executes at a high level. This isn't just a victory, it's a template for success that they can replicate throughout the rest of the season. The mental aspect of what Clark accomplished cannot be overstated. To return from injury with no minutes restriction, no tentative play, no gradual ramp-up period, and immediately deliver a career-defining performance against the league's best team requires a level of mental toughness that separates superstars from everyone else. She could have played it safe, could have worked her way back gradually, could have accepted a modest return to form. Instead, she chose violence, chose to make a statement that will echo through the rest of the season. The Liberty will recover from this loss, of course. They're too talented, too experienced, too well coached to let one game derail their championship aspirations, but they'll never forget the feeling of being completely outclassed, completely overwhelmed, completely humiliated by a single player operating at a level they couldn't match. That knowledge will linger in the back of their minds for the rest of the season, a reminder that their championship path isn't guaranteed, that there are players in this league capable of single-handedly destroying their dreams for the fans. In Indianapolis, this game represents everything they hoped for when Clark was drafted. This is why they bought season tickets, why they packed the arena, why they invested their emotions in this team and this player. They witnessed history tonight, saw a performance that will be talked about for years, experienced the kind of sporting event that creates lifelong memories and binds communities together in shared amazement. The WNBA as a whole benefits from performances like this. When one player reaches this level of excellence, when the basketball being played transcends mere sport and becomes art, it elevates the entire league. This is the kind of game that creates new fans, that changes perceptions, that reminds everyone why basketball at its highest level is the most beautiful game in the world. The MVP conversation that was happening before Clark's injury has now been definitively settled.
Viral tweets being like, Caitlin Clark is a disgrace, her body language, and it's like, man, she just dropped 25 points. You just hate Caitlin. And I'm looking, WNBA threads is even hilarious. I'm just going to say I hate Caitlin Clark, no way around it. She makes me the F sick. You will not convince me the WNBA is not scripted. I'm 100% certain now. And this is apparently scripted for Caitlin Clark. They put the magnets on the basket, apparently. They put the magnets on the basket. Like, that's all I'm going to say. The magnets on the basket. Like, this is like, these Caitlin Clark haters are unhinged. They're unhinged. Like, that is the only way I can describe it. Like, they are absolutely unhinged.
You can't vote against a player who returns from injury to deliver this kind of performance against this level of competition. The numbers speak for themselves, but the impact goes beyond statistics. This is what MVP level play looks like when it's unleashed without restrictions or limitations. As the basketball world processes what they just witnessed, one thing becomes crystal clear. Caitlin Clark isn't just back from injury. She's back as the most dominant force in women's basketball, ready to carry her team wherever her will and talent can take them. The Liberty found out tonight what happens when you face greatness in its purest form. The rest of the league has been warned. It wasn't just about beating the defending champions or ending a perfect season. It was about establishing a new order in the WNBA, with Caitlin Clark standing at the top of the mountain, looking down at everyone else and daring them to try to knock her off. The Liberty tried. The Liberty failed. The question now is, who's brave enough to try next? The New York Liberty got humiliated and Caitlin Clark got her crown.